Next up on the virtual stage is Ted Lilgestrand from Vanguard. Ted is the head of UX strategy and design for Advice, and he's passionate about digital transformation and bringing accessible, well-crafted experiences to users. Really excited for this presentation from today about delivering advice in the digital world and how we can transform ideas of what financial advice and human actions can be, and how Ted and his team are just doing that exact thing at Vanguard. All you, Ted.
Hello, Mad Pal FXD. Thanks for having me. My name is Ted Liljestrand. I work at Vanguard. I lead UX strategy and design for our Advice digital products. And today, what I'd like to do is cover a little bit about Vanguard's positioning of advice and how it connects back to our core mission. I'll also talk about our UX processes and how digital experiences supplement and in some cases transform our idea of what financial advice and interactions can be. Finally, I'll touch on CX Alpha and why we think it's key to a world-class client experience. So positioning and opportunity for advice. Advice is a primary objective for Vanguard as a way to better assist and guide clients to achieve their goals. I will say we strive to keep the barrier to entry low with competitive fee structure, but also with digital experiences that reduce friction. To position advice means to make it a part of our brand and to align it to our core mission. So we have to ask ourselves, what is authentic, what is aligned, what is aspirational, and how that reflects on our current state, our history, and what the future story is for advice. With that, we've come up with this positioning called Advice for Owners. It harkens back to our overall ownership structure. And when we see this out in the wild, it's really exciting because Advice for Owners, we feel like it drives the Vanguard mission of giving investors the best chance for investment success. It also calls back to our structure, and every client is an owner. And so we think about investments and financial goals in the way we do about generational relationships and growth. And so with that, it's really exciting that part of now the tagline and our brand campaign is investments, advice, the value of ownership. So that's just a little bit of positioning and background on how we think about advice and how we partner with our marketing, our offer strategy team, and others to bring it to life. I'm going to talk a little bit now just about our UX process. It's, for us, the way we connect best practices in research, content, design, and strategy to that enterprise positioning in order to create what we call a world-class client experience. And I'll get deeper into that when we talk about CX Alpha. In advice, we definitely have different client segments that we're thinking about. The younger audience that might have a little more comfort in the digital world. Older audience, maybe pre-retirees or retirees that really want a strong relationship with an advisor. They want a plan that they're confident in. They want a smooth drawdown experience. And then finally, the advisor themselves and how we're trying to put them at the center of these digital experiences and really erase the barriers between these screens within the digital platform. We use these pillars to just help guide us through the UX process. These pillars are fluid. They evolve, and at times, some are more important than others, depending on the products and the audience that we're working with. Just at a high level, elevate the advisor. Obviously, we're trying to bake the advisor into the digital process where even though a lot of our clients will have interactions with an advisor, whether it's on the phone or video conference, we want to make them feel like they can have access to that person or that team of advisors through our digital platforms. Maintain an active relationship. This is where we want to make sure our digital interaction ratios are something that we're happy with. We also want to give clients their options of what channels they prefer to interact with our advisors and with Vanguard as a whole, whether that is just through a desktop platform versus native mobile versus text, video conference, etc. We want to make sure that there's always access when they need it. Design for the client's financial life. This is something where we want to make sure that there's a holistic view of a client's financial life and all their accounts. And so when they come to Vanguard, yes, they can see their managed accounts and their details, but we also want them to have access to their self-managed accounts and their external accounts. It makes for a really holistic experience when we can bring all those accounts together and show them one view so that they don't have to bounce into different platforms, different brands and companies to do that. Finally, make investment accessible for everyone. This one's really key for our robo platform, where a digital advisor really looks to an audience that maybe just getting into investing may not be super comfortable with it. We want to make sure that we lower the barrier. We want to make it accessible for these different types of client segments and audiences. I'll jump deep into some of the UX process now. In Vanguard UX, we utilize the roles of research, strategy, content, and design to work through these processes with our key partners. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the ZBD process. It's zero-based design. We gather these key partners to discuss, brainstorm, ideate, and evaluate ways to serve our clients. But it all starts with the problem. And we want to make sure we don't lose sight of who we're doing this for. And even those establishing personas can feel stale over time and more of a chore to do within the UX process. We've found that using them ongoing through storyboarding or through scenarios or through ongoing interviews and surveys is the way to really keep them fresh and relevant. Statistics like client segments, propensity scores, current success metrics that we have for ourselves, and lead generation provided by our partners in data and analytics give more insight into the problems that we're solving. So we want to make sure that we don't lose sight of those deep client problems. And sure, we create new features and functionality to help solve those problems, but we have to really make sure that it's tying back to the client need. Service design blueprints show us what's happening from a user's perspective, but more importantly, what's happening backstage. And at times, these can be pretty simplistic, but once you start to dig in, there's a lot going on. And so we want to make sure that we understand what services we're providing from Vanguard's side at key moments through a client's journey. And this helps us understand timing for some of these backstage processes and where we can improve them. We consider advisors and clients as our end users, and we want to understand their concerns, their struggles, and how UX and digital can streamline their processes and leave room for meaningful discussions and coaching. So we engage in a lot of research activities with both. So we're constantly asking ourselves from like a client standpoint, like what is attainable? What keeps them up at night? Or we're putting ourselves in the perspective of an advisor to say, how can we simplify our tasks? How can we give them more time for those meaningful interactions? And in this specific case, you can see the bottom right, actually doing some card sorting with advisors to help them understand what are the valuable pieces of a digital experience? What are the things that they want to have at arm's length when they're talking to a client? How can they access those data points quickly and easily? We also survey large groups of clients and prospects just to gauge the appetite for specific features and capabilities, but they have to map back to those problems that we're trying to solve. So the what, the when, and the where all factor into this, especially when we consider channel preference and where does a client want to surface a new feature or piece of functionality. Learning desired outcomes and tying those back to the prioritization of digital features is key. We work in a very lean, agile environment, so we need to make sure that what we're building has some kind of optimal delivery process. And what does that look like, and how does it support the offer strategy? An output of all these meetings, these workshops, these discussions, these surveys is a group of themes that occur across an end-to-end journey. And we'll take these themes, and in this case, this example is there's three phases to this experience. There's the discover and evaluation period. There's the decide and act when you're actually starting to onboard and commit to advice at Vanguard. And then there's that point post-conversion where you're going to engage and react. You're going to have that relationship with your advisor, and how can the digital platform help in that space? And so following these themes come features and capabilities that support those themes. And across the bottom, you also see that we consider the enablers to these end-to-end journeys, as well as the approach that we have to take as a UX team and the outcomes that we're going after. And the outcomes is a really important piece. We're big on outcomes at Vanguard. So we want to make sure that with any program or product that we're following, we want to make sure that are we either increasing new user conversion? Are we increasing AUM? Are we looking to increase retention? Are we trying to improve input to the financial plan? There's a whole slew of outcomes that we can go after. So that is sort of the UX process that we use at Vanguard to try and get closer to the clients, closer to advisors, and to try and gauge and have some kind of vision of what an end-to-end process will look like with features and capabilities to support it. Lastly, I'll talk about CX Alpha. Early in the year, we distributed what we called the World-Class Client Experience Memo. We shared this with not only all of our UX community, but our product and journey ownership, the business, development, and IT. And in it, we spoke to our teams and partners and shared aspirational visions of how this world-class client experience would benefit our clients. Specific themes that we called out in this memo were ease is loyalty, or how do we create a loyalty company? Using digital is living digital, or how can clients live alongside us? Interactive is immersive, or how can we never leave clients feeling disconnected? Data is personal, or know us, show us, and keep it safe. Execution is client obsession, or how to win in experience. We must win in execution. And finally, automation is the ultimate enabler, or creating a human plus company, or saying we're not B2B or B2C, we're B2H. Throughout the memo, we refer to the idea of small positive behaviors that we can create with our users that add up to outcomes over time. And if we did this, we'd achieve CX Alpha. And we'd optimize every interaction, and we use all of our UX processes that I've just walked us through in the interest of client outcomes. And we know that we're aligning to our mission of taking a stand for all investors. And here is how that is delivered within some of our advice experiences. I mentioned Digital Advisor earlier. It's a new offer of ours. It's only about a year in being out in the wild. If I were to kind of high level differentiate the two, I would say that it's a slightly younger audience, a little more comfortable in the digital space, thinking about financial goals in a different way, not just focused on retirement, considering other smaller time-boxed goals like a new car, a house, paying back student debt, paying off credit cards. And so the features and capabilities that we're shipping following that UX process really gets at this. And it's not just setting up multiple goals, it's also thinking about there's a lot of education that we can provide to younger audiences through this. So what is a personalized plan and the advantages of it? How do I invest in a smart way? How do I set up automatic withdrawals, knowing that I'm pretty comfortable within the native mobile space? So these are just some of the ways that we're pushing forward with Digital Advisor, and we're building these features to unlock offers for specific audiences. Next, I'll jump over to Personal Advisor. Again, just to quickly kind of differentiate it, a slightly older audience, primarily pre-retirees and retirees that are looking for one financial goal, which is retirement. And so how do we serve that audience? And this is where, elevating the advisor, baking them into the digital experiences really comes to life. Showing them how close they're getting to retirement, giving them the option to contact the advisor at the channel of their choice, showing them all of their accounts. So again, that holistic view of the larger financial life, my managed accounts, self-managed accounts, outside accounts. And then also serving up them tools that are relevant. So like I mentioned, it's an older audience. They may be interested in things like a Medicare match tool or estimating my healthcare costs. We also keep them sort of aligned with a dashboard that shows them the things they need to do prior to that first advisor call. So things like accepting the terms of service, scheduling that call, revisiting a sample asset mix that they got when they signed up for the service, or signing up for text alerts, again, giving them their choice of channel preference. So that's where we stand today. Now for the future, what we envision is a client experience that is perhaps as cyclical as it is end-to-end. These themes and features are what we'll evaluate, test with, iterate, and provide for Vanguard's advice clients. And these are central to both digital and personal advisor. Like I mentioned earlier, the pillars that we have, like they're fluid. Some things are more important to some audiences or products than others, but we feel like these all do a really good job of creating a robust financial planning experience and ongoing digital engagement. Thanks for listening. I was really excited to walk you through kind of how we're trying to create different advice experiences through these digital platforms and how we're really trying to transform the way human interactions are for Vanguard's advice clients.
Thank you, Ted. Really appreciate that look at what you're doing over at Vanguard.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Really excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so relevant for everyone here today, trying to understand how we think about these different audiences within the context of environments that honestly couldn't be changing faster.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of change. I feel like we're at this point in time right now with our client experience and digital practice being like a few years of maturity and just trying to understand and building like a UX research practice and trying to understand the clients that we have and trying to understand like what are the features, capabilities that can drive outcomes for clients and prospects.
Totally. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do love the B to H idea. That's something that I think we can all stand to remember sometimes. Like, these are humans at play. Let's remember that. That's so important.
Yeah, it's definitely like, whenever I talk to colleagues at Vanguard and, we all talk about like what drew us here. It's always like the mission. It's always that idea of just helping people and being in a, financial services industry that's just looking out for people and trying to drive their success.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. It's far reaching, that is for sure. But we do have some questions here that I'm going to toss to you right now. So leading off, from a design and UX perspective, what are some of the things you consider when evaluating concepts like AI or robo-advising?
Good question. So some of the things we would consider from like a business efficiency standpoint is like automation and what kind of things can we just get better at to serve clients faster. From the client standpoint, it's more about preference and those Forrester pillars of like ease, emotion, and effectiveness, especially ease and effectiveness of like how can we just drive the ease of investing and be really effective with the services capabilities that we offer.
Totally. Yeah. No, it's about trying to, again, it comes back to those different groups and audiences and trying to figure out where it all lines up. That's for sure. Another question here. How did the world-class client experience memo come to be? Was there a key moment or push that led to it?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. And I'll just have to say, like, I work with colleagues in CXD that inspire and amaze me every day. And I think it was just part of these talks and these huddles that we had to say, like, what is that North Star vision that we all want to be marching towards? What is something aspirational that we can deliver to our teams? And it was something that, you know, throughout last year we would put together and kind of co-create amongst all of our UX discipline leads, and then finally get it into, you know, craft it into some shape that we wanted to share with not only the whole UX community, but also product, business, engineering, everyone, to say, we want to have something aspirational that we're marching towards. We're not there yet. We know that there's hurdles in technology, there's hurdles in UX, and in product, but we know we want to get somewhere. And like, these are the pillars that if we follow these pillars and we consider outcomes to behaviors to experience and kind of draw that line through, that we'll always know that we're building the right things and that we're really at the end of the day trying to make our clients achieve the outcomes that they have in mind. So that becomes like the North Star that guides us.
Sure.
And
yeah, no, that makes sense.
With those pillars, like this idea, the memo had like a little story of a specific type of client and the things that they were doing within their day-to-day life and how digital really factored into that. So beyond like those pillars that I talked about, there are actual stories of clients that bring it to life and illustrate it to show our community like they're working on small pieces of features or capabilities, but hopefully we could paint a picture of like how that creates a product that then drives an investor's journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess, you know, kind of related to that is, you know, I know that you talked about digital advisor, you talked a little bit about personal advisor and how those audiences are different. You have a younger audience versus an older audience, and some of the, you know, financial goals within those are slightly different. Are you planning to, you know, how are you thinking about kind of evolving these products, or are you thinking more about shifting this audience from one product to another? I know that that can be messy sometimes.
It can be messy. Yeah, it's definitely something we're constantly thinking about. Like, is there a graduation path from one product to another? Is it so much of a line in the sand versus is it just a graduation of content strategy and tools that represent your different life stages as you're going? Like, I would think a future vision would just be like, there is Vanguard advice, and it can cater to whether you are a younger client, digitally savvy with shorter term goals within 1 to 2 years, or a different life stage where you're focused on retirement. It's kind of what we have today, but like, how do we fill in that middle piece? So I would think that as we talk about advice with our partners in product in the business, like, there are certain offers that we can unlock to make that gradual path a lot smoother and not feel like you're just jumping from one product to another. I feel like that's the future goal.
Totally. Yeah. No, as we mentioned too, like, the environment's constantly changing, so we need to find a way to be nimble and evaluate, you know, as we go, that's the world we're living in now, for sure. So, Ted, this has been great. You know, so awesome to get a behind the scenes look at some of this stuff and hear more about how you're approaching it. So, love the work you're doing and really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ethan. Thanks for having me. This was great.